The first ground, 6 desire heavens and ordinary beings, and the 6 paths of reincarnations, which include heavenly sentient beings. So in the first ground, all the 5 consciousnesses function. That is the eye, the ear, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and the body. And remember, this body is not just the body of touch. This body includes the brain, the heart, the liver, the spleen, everything inside the body, and its interaction. It's an aggregate of all you, physical you. It's not just a body of touch. The meaning is more comprehensive than just the body of touch. So that's the first ground. The second ground is the first dhyana ground, which is a much higher level. Our 5 consciousnesses only exist up to the second ground, the first dhyana. Even in the first dhyana, the tongue and the nose, they don't have the function. They don't have that anymore. Because only crude existent beings require the 5 senses. When you are in the second dhyana or the third to the 9th grounds, they don't require the nose, the eyes, the body, all these crude organs anymore. So the lower animals require the crude organs like us. All those existing at the higher level, they don't require the food that we are eating. So in the 3rd, 4th, 5, up to the 9th, they don't require our kind of food. Our kind of food is the coarse kind of food. Their food is subtle. They don't need digestions and excretion. That's the coarse kind of metabolism. In the higher level, they don't need that. And you realize that in the 9th ground, they don't have even the 6th consciousness. Only the alaya consciousness left. In the 8th ground, partially the 6th consciousness and the full 7. In the 7th ground, partial of the 6th consciousness, which is the mano. Of course, that's what we are. We're talking about the 6th consciousness now. And the full 7th consciousness exists. Infinite space, partial 6, full 7, and in the 5th ground, partial 6, the 7th is full, 3rd, same. In the 2nd level, the full 6 exists. As you know, that up to the higher level, all the senses do not function anymore. You don't require them anymore. Those are the coarse kind, not the subtle kind of interaction. So at the higher you are, you don't require all your organs. So the realms on which the consciousness arise, as far as the 6th consciousness that we're talking about now, the mano consciousness, exists from the 1st ground to the 6th ground. In all realms, the 6th consciousness exists, except the 9th ground, they don't have any more. And from the 4th ground to the 8th ground, only partial exists. So do you know the realms on which the 6th consciousness exists? And then now let's talk about how does our 6th consciousness function. Remember the 6th consciousness, which we call the mano consciousness, and in ordinary psychology, we call it the thinking consciousness. In ordinary psychology, the thinking consciousness. And in the Sanskrit language is mano vijnana, a Buddhist term. And how does the mano, the 6th consciousness, arise? It could arise simultaneously with the first 5 consciousnesses: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, taste, the tongue, the body. It could be simultaneous. And even in simultaneous, it could be having the same object, external object, or may not have the same external object. So it could be simultaneous, and then it is also independent of the first 5. The 6th consciousness, the mano consciousness, does not need the first 5 to arise. It could be simultaneous, it could be independent. For example, When would be the situations where your sixth consciousness is independent of the first five? When you are dreaming, night dreaming, or when you're daydreaming, when you are in samadhi, when you are in a trance of meditation. You don't need the first five consciousness. They don't rise. It does not arise with the first five consciousnesses. Okay, and sometimes the mano can reflect on the past, thinking about the past. Then they don't require the first five consciousness, independent of, or thinking about the future. So your sixth consciousness is extremely subtle and extremely active and extremely powerful because it does not require the first five to function. So your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your body consciousness, through perception, through the five sensory organs, react to external environments, and then it interacts with cognition, with modern psychology term, which is the mano, the sixth consciousness. And what does the cognition do? The thinking consciousness, which we are talking about now. We already have finished the first five, you know that. We're only talking about the mano, the sixth consciousness. It has various functions of the cognitive process, including interpretation, intellectualization, rationalization, analysis, investigations. All of these is done through the cognition process, which is the mano consciousness. So it's extremely active. All images of the past and the future, they all happen, they all function, they all get reflected into cognition. So in other words, if we get an example, that mano, the manager, other than supervising the first five consciousnesses, the salesman and the sales lady, and interacting with them, the mano can also dig into old file, archive files, and also do budgeting, and talks to directors, talk to the shareholders. It's extremely active. So in other words, it is the thinking consciousness that is responsible for a person doing misdeeds or a person doing good deeds. So it's responsible for pulling you down to hell or pushing you up to heaven. You yourself, that sixth consciousness, we got to watch it. When we're doing meditation, we're training it. We are training our sixth consciousness to react in the right way. So that's the reason why we're doing meditation. You have to know why. Meditation is just, I want to improve my health, I want to be wiser. Oh yeah, you can be wiser by doing meditation, but you got to have the right objective in doing a meditation. It's not just coming to relax, it's coming to train your sixth consciousness. And this kind of training is not just a one-day sitting, like on a Saturday morning. It is a continuous training. That's the reason why monks, nuns, or they all have to do meditation all the time. Even when they are walking, when they are sleeping, when they are working, there's constant training of the sixth consciousness so that you're on the right track. Right now, you're not going through that kind of training. Once you walk out of this meditation hall, you're doing things egoistically on your own thinking. And that's the problem. But you may not realize the problem. You may think that life is like that, but that's the reason why we create a lot of karma and we suffer from it. That's the main reason. We don't realize, we don't even realize how it all works. We think we should be doing things like that. You don't even know what is wrong and what is right. So that's the mano consciousness, the cognition. And then the cognition also interact with the ego attachment consciousness, the manas consciousness. And what does the ego consciousness do? That your ego, my ego, start to personalize the foregoing consciousnesses with a self. Myself, this self. You want to protect this self, this ego. And in the process of protecting it, you could be injuring others, hurting others, doing a lot of misdeeds. You know what I mean. All these because of the ego, the self. This is personalization and arousal of emotions. All these emotions, you know what these emotions, we have the 51 emotions, right? 51 mental afflictions that we already have talked about. The primary one, the basic one, the secondary ones, the intermediate ones. Altogether we have how many? 51 of them. Greediness, hatred, jealousy, parsimony, arrogance, doubts, shamelessness, you know, all kinds. We already have gone through them in detail. So check your notes, then you know which ones are. And then the cognition, the mano, always interact with the ego. Non-stopping. Your thinking consciousness is always interacting with your ego consciousness non-stop. Even in your dream. Even in your dream, you are egoistic. Even in our dream. Because it's a non-stop thing. And when a person dies, the cognition, the mano, does not exist anymore. It shrinks into the ego, and the ego shrinks into the store consciousness. And the store consciousness is the liar consciousness, of course. And if we use modern English, you can call it as a soul. Your soul, but soul is not really the best definition for it. We already have talked about it. And when we talk about a liar consciousness, we'll get back to it. So all these is interacting with the store of the alive consciousness. If we can use a computer, which is a good example, nowadays we have computer, to give an example on this, your perception is simply your keyboards. Your 5 sensory organs, or the keyboard on the fingers working on the keyboards, the front ends. Your cognition is the program inside. The program inside. And the ego attachment is the person who is operating it. If you're using the computer as an example, per se, just the computer, the person who are operating on it is actually controlling all the keyboards inside. And then the store consciousness is the disk drive. The memory is unlimited. Everything you have done, everything you have talked about, every thought gets stored into your alive consciousness. It can't go away. You think that I have done something that nobody knows. I've cheated that person. I've done this. Nobody knows about it. Or not even the police. But your own consciousness, your disk drive, already have stored in it. You can't get away with it. Everything you have done, all the misdeed, you cannot get away with it. All the good deeds you have done, you cannot get away with it. Every thought is registered in your unlimited memory of your disk drive, which we call the store consciousness. All right, so this is another review of what we have been talking about. And then we say, okay, we already have known how the the mano consciousness function. And then we say, why do we have to learn all this? Why do we have to learn all this? Psychology, right? The Buddha wanted us to know all these. The Buddha wanted us to know where the problems are, how our mind works, how actually the mind works out all these things, how the mind, because of a thought produces word, speech, and speech produces behavior and action. How does this carry all the karmic energy and it bounces back to us? The Buddha said, this is what you should know. And then the Buddha, in volumes and volumes of teaching, introduced how to change this, how to transform this polluted consciousness into wisdom, into enlightenment, into nirvana, into a detachment from sufferings and mental afflictions and emotions. The Buddha has talked a lot about methods, how to do it. Other than just explaining what happened, the Buddha also say, how do we change it? How would it do better? How do we do it? In order to change your thinking consciousness, to purify it, the Buddha introduced millions of words about how to do this. They're all in the Tripitaka, all in the literature of the Buddhist teaching. But there are 37 guidelines, reminders. These are just the broad, general guidelines. Because when you get into details to how to do it, you need to get into details of how to meditate, how to chant, how to think, how to observe your behavior, how to make sure that you don't get into the wrong deeds. All these have a lot of methods to it, but there are 37 guidelines which I would like to introduce to you, just the guidelines. And then in these guidelines, then you can work out from this guideline, from this compass. When you're steering a ship, you need a compass, right? When you're in the middle of an ocean, if you don't have a compass, you can't go anywhere. Especially if it's foggy, if it's at night, you need a compass. And on the compass, there are written onto it the 37 directions, guidelines. And let's examine these guidelines, see if we can do it in 15 minutes. Just the guidelines. To get into each one of these, you need a lot of explanations and actually practice, not just theory, but practice. Let's get into the 37. The 37 aids to enlightenment. We have the 4 contemplations, the 4 right endeavors, the 4 requisites for achieving dhyana, which is the meditation, the 4 requisites for achieving meditation, the 5 spiritual faculties, the 5 spiritual powers, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the Noble Eightfold Paths. If you add all this together, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 7, and 8, you got 37. These 37 are just reminders. They're just reminders. They're mottos. Mottos to be put on your desk. You know, these are the guidelines that I should be doing. 37 aids to enlightenment. All right, let's examine the first one. Remember, the first one is what? The 4 contemplations. In the 4 contemplations, we have contemplation on the body, contemplation on feelings, contemplation on the mind, and contemplation on mental objects. Let's just do it very fast so that we can finish it in 15 minutes. How do we do contemplation of the body? For the abandon of sensual desires, of beauty, of what is attracted to you sensuously, by the dull-witted individuals of the craving type. You are craving for things you like, you love. The craving for, you're greedy for things you like. Usually you like things to, it's just beautiful, you like things that is pleasurable. You like appearance. That's for the dull-witted. For those keen-witted, they look at the substance, but the dull-witted, they only look at the appearance of their craving for appearance. They don't know what is inside, because we always think that this is skin, beauty is skin deep. But there are also people who said ugliness is bone tied and bone deep. You know what I mean? Those are the oppositions. But anyway, for abandoning of the sensual desire of beauty, by the dull-witted individuals of the craving type, the seeing of the ugliness in the body, the cause object, which is the basis of craving, it is the path to purity, to purify your sensuous thought, which almost like everybody has that. It depends on which level you are at. Some people are absolutely obsessed with it. They can't get away with it. And because of this obsession, more and more problems come out from their life because of obsession. Second is contemplation on feelings. For the abandonment of the attachment to feelings of pleasure by the keen-witted individuals of the craving type. These type, they don't look at appearance. They know they have to look at things in the inside substance. The seeing of suffering and feeling, the subtle object, which is the basis of craving, is the path to purity. And this is the higher level individuals. They still attach to pleasure. They may know the pleasure is not from appearance, but they still attach to pleasure. They like pleasure and they hate non-pleasure. So they still have this feeling type. They still have this feeling. So contemplation on feeling is to abandon the attachment to feelings. Contemplation on the mind. For the abandoning of the notion of permanence, the dull-witted individuals of the theorizing type. For those who are opinionated, they always get the opinion and they can't change it. They cannot change the opinion. So they are the dull-witted, they can change it. They may know that nothing is permanent, but in the latent belief, they act as if everything will last. That's why they attach to it. They're attached to the jewelries, the money, the fame and reputation. And they're attached, they're struggling for fame and contemplation of the mind for the abandoning of the notion of permanence. Contemplation of mental objects for the abandoning of the attachment of self. They still have the self, the keen-witted individuals of the opinionated type. We all have an individualized opinion about everything, which is inherent in us. When people suggest to you, give you advice, or when people say that you say, oh, this is not right, you don't agree. You always have that ego in you. You don't agree. You want to protect that ego. So that you have to contemplate on the mental objects by the multiple weight of perception, sense, impression, and so forth. It will lead you to the path of purity. So we are only touching on the broad, general model, a guideline. But in each one of these, you need to practice it. How to practice on contemplation of the body? It requires months and years of working on it in your meditation. How to practice purification of the mind with regard to your attachment to sensuous desires. You have to look at the Mahasatipatthana or Satipatthana. Lots of details on how to achieve it. This is just to tell you, the guidelines to tell you. 37 guidelines written on the tape on your desk so that you know you don't want, that's your compass. If you get out from the guidelines, if you're doing things that is opposite to the guidelines written on your desk, you're in trouble. You already misled yourself. So these are the guidelines that we should always maintain. All right, this is the 4 contemplations. Next, the 4 endeavors. Once you know these guidelines, the 4 endeavors say, not just talking about it, talking about theory. You have to practice it. You have to walk. You can't just talk about going to Richmond by looking at the map. You really have to get into a car, ignite your engine, and start to drive. You can't just talk about it. You have to work at it. You can talk about, I want to go to university, but you never want to study. You don't want to study. You don't even want to buy the textbooks. You don't even register. How can you go to university? You have to walk the board. All right? So these, how do you do it? Not to let any unwholesome thought arise which has not yet arisen. Unwholesome thought is what? For example, laziness. I wanted to get it. Many people advise me to take that course. And it seems that I can never get around to research into which institute I should take it, which course, when I should register. I got examples on my working crew. I advised him, okay, you need to take, because you're working in a China monastery, maybe you should take a course in Chinese, right? You can, many courses. I've been talking to him for 1 year. And he kept on procrastinating. He kept on saying, yeah, I should do it. But the thought of laziness and sloth always comes up. He never get around doing it. I want to be a better person. This is my agenda for 2017, 2018, but he never get around doing it. He let all this laziness thought comes out. Once a lazy thought comes out, unwholesome thought comes out, don't allow it to come out. Second, not to let an unwholesome thought continue which has already arisen. I'm lazy, I don't want to work, I don't want to do, but don't let it linger on. Change it. Start to change it, transform it. Do it today. Don't do it tomorrow. You want to change it today. Don't just talk about it. 3, to make a wholesome thought arise which has not yet arisen. I never thought about improving myself. That's wrong. You have to make this wholesome thought of seeking improvement, let it arise in you. Energize yourself. Get to walk. I want to go to on a Saturday morning, I have nothing else to do. I want to go to attend that meditation class. But gee, I was drinking last night, and now it's I want to sleep in for 2 hours. It's better to sleep in better than go to meditation. You know, that wholesome thought of interest in meditation, interest in improving wisdom, improving yourself, cannot arise You have to make it arise. You have to stimulate yourself to make sure that wholesome thought arises in you. Fourth, to make a wholesome thought continue, which has already arisen. Last week, that wholesome thought arises that you will go to meditation. But this week, you're not coming. Or next week, you're not coming. It's only for you one week. And the next week, you don't know where you are. You slip in for another 3-4 hours, or you go into, a party. You forgot about meditation anymore. You start your agenda to put on the desk. I want to do this and I want to do that. At the end of the year, you found that nothing got done. Do you realize things happen that way? It happened to me in some of the things I do. When I went to chapters doesn't exist anymore. When I get to a bookstore, I want to search for the best calendar for 2017. I brought it home, and I want pages and pages that I can write on it. I put all my plans onto it, and by the end of 2017, when I flip onto it, I get nothing done. It's the same old me, like the same as what is the beginning of the year. That 4 right endeavors are to encourage you to push. People have to be pushed sometimes, but people don't want to be pushed. That's the deadlock between an employee and a supervisor. The supervisor wants to push. The employee said, how come you push me? You only pay me $12 an hour and you want to push me to do a job that's worth $15? No way, no way. And then they quit. You see, that's what happened. Nobody wants to be pushed. You need to be pushed. And that push is not external. That push needs to be an internal push. An external push is not that effective to you. But an internal drive to be better, that's what is required. You need to be pushed to do a better job. You need to be pushed to come here every Saturday morning to do a meditation. The fact that you've been coming here for a number of years, actually you're on your way to enlightenment because you pushed yourself to do it. I have seen a lot of people come and go. Some people come 1, 2, and 3, 4 times, and then they never appear anymore. I have thousands of people who have attended meditation class, but only a few left and carry on these endeavors. They come and go, like the waves. They wash ashore, and then they receded into the ocean. Get back to the ocean of sentient beings. Get back to the oceans of mental afflictions, oceans of sufferings, sensuous desires, fame, reputation. To get on back to where they are. They washed ashore one time, and they never show up again. The 4 right endeavors should be the 4 right models for you for pushing yourself to do better. All right, next, the 4 requisites for achieving dhyana. And then you say, okay, I can push myself, no problem. I'll come here all the time. But what is required to do a better job when I have already been successful in pushing myself to do it? How can I achieve it? Once I can push myself into doing it, what are the guidelines to achieve what I push myself to do? Now, these are the guidelines. You must have a strong desire achieving meditation, dhyana. The desire is your objective. You have to have an objective. What is my objective in meditation? My objective in meditation is to transform my polluted consciousness into wisdom and towards enlightenment. That's how I become leading a happier and happier life. And I need energy towards achieving it. I need to have diligence in doing it. I need to apply my efforts in doing it. Investigations towards achieving dhyana. I need what? Investigation. What is investigation? I need to search the right way. Not just coming here and sitting still and get myself into a relaxed situation. I need to know how to do it. What's the right method of doing it? Am I on the right method? If I haven't got the right method, how do I change back to the right method? That's investigation. And fourth, analysis towards achieving dhyana. Analysis. So you need desire, energy, investigation, and analysis. The first two are especially required for samatha. And the last two requisites are required for vipassana. Samatha is concentration or focus. Vipassana is on wisdom. So you need concentration and focus first. So you need desire and energy. You need an objective and you need determination. Once you get that, then you get into further refinement of your intelligence into wisdom. So you need these four requisites for achieving dhyana. And then once you achieve these dhyanas, then we'll say, sometimes we all have changeable mind. Sometimes we're being affected by externalities. We change our course of actions. You know, sometimes when you are driving, I want to go to Richmond at that temple to learn meditation. You were driving along, number 3, and then you that's McDonald's. I'm hungry. It's almost 9 now. Oh, forget about it. I want to get a hamburger. Then you drive to McDonald's and spend half an hour in there. You missed your meditation class because during your way of driving, you're being attracted to other things. Or when you're driving, you see your girlfriend walking on the road and say, hey, Judy, we go for a walk, then you don't come here anymore. So you're being attracted and obsessed to externalities when you are doing all this. And what do you do then? Then you need to build up your faculties, to build up your strength. You need to have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. What is faith? You develop confidence and enthusiasm towards the practice. That controls your doubt. You may say when you're driving, by the way, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. Meditation, everybody's doing meditation. Or Buddhism is just a religion. I believe in Christianity before, so why do I have to get to Buddhism? You don't have a faith. You don't strengthen your faculty. You need to have that faith to control your doubt. You need to have energy, applying more efforts and developing more energy, controlling your laziness and your torpor and your sloth. And then third, you need mindfulness. As one's energy improves, their awareness and mindfulness will naturally become stronger, improving insight and perseverance. You need perseverance, you need endurances, you need patience in doing it, and that's mindfulness. Fourth is concentration. When one's mindfulness of the present moment improves, when you can focus, the mind will naturally stay on the object, your focus becomes stronger and stronger, then that would control your distraction. Because when you're meditating, you could be distracted in a lot of other wandering thoughts. So you need that concentration. Fifth is wisdom. As the mind becomes more calm and still, wisdom is developed and they are able to see the true nature of things, controlling ignorance. Then you are transforming your polluted consciousness into wisdom. Why do I have to learn consciousness? Why do we have to study the mind? We study the mind because our mind is polluted. We want to get away these pollutants. We want to change the polluted mind, transform the polluted mind into wisdom so that we can strive towards enlightenment. So that's the 5 spiritual faculties. And then, after you build up, you already have strengthened these faculties, you need to have these faculties, this strength, increase the strength in the faculty. Not just have it, not just have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. You need to increase its momentum. See, these 37 factors of enlightenment can apply to your life. In everything you're doing, in your business, in your occupation, in your job, if you apply this faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, you'll be the greatest employee or the greatest employer or the greatest person, a happier person, and you'll be successful in whatever you're doing if you apply these 37 factors of enlightenment. You can call it the 37 factors towards success in whatever you're doing. Not just in Buddhism, not just in meditation. It is a factor to success. So I always say that if a young guy in the early age learn about these 37 factors, he will be successful in whatever he's doing because he followed these models. He followed this guideline. He used this as a compass in leading his life. So once you have these 5 spiritual faculties, what do? You strengthen it. It's the same. It's faith, energy, mindfulness, tranquility, and wisdom. These are the same as the 5 spiritual faculties mentioned before. They are called powers here to emphasize that as the practitioner progresses, the 5 faculties interact with each other with the most appropriate balance and gain more momentum. In your meditation, sometimes your faith is depleting. Your faith is deteriorating. You don't believe in it anymore. You need energy and mindfulness to balance it. And you need to reinforce yourself. Sometimes your energy is failing because you have problems with meditation. When you have problems with meditation, you say, I want to give up. There are problems in it. When I meditate, today, when I'm meditating, I feel that I don't feel comfortable. Or, I've been learning Buddhism for many, many years, and I don't find any progress. He does not know that, sometimes you're on a flat line. Maybe you're at a juncture where, boom, you go up to a higher level. You cannot maintain your patience and your perseverance, and then you give up. So this is when the 5 faculties are interacting with each other with the right balance, and you gain more momentum. In whatever you're doing, sometimes you fail. It does not mean that when you follow all these, you will be successful in every count. Sometimes you slip, you fall. When you slip, you fall, what do? You just stand up, pick up the knapsack, continue to go. Continue to strive forward. You got to jump over the obstacles, the hurdles. When you're doing your 300, 600 meter race, you got to jump over these hurdles. You kick a hurdle. You don't want to say, oh, I can't go on anymore, and then you slip, you fall. You just pick up your speed and you go on to another hurdle. Once you get all the hurdles overcome, then you're right there. You are the first runner up. There's bound to be hurdles, bound to be problems, bound to be obsession, bound to be problems in what you're practicing. But you don't give up. How many times Thomas Edison gave up? In his autobiography, hundreds of times in his experiments that he wanted to give up. He failed in his lab, in his experiments. But he continued. He continued to jump over the hurdle. Every hurdle, he was able to overcome it. And when you can jump over a hurdle, when you look back, you feel happy about it. Because look, I was not afraid of the hurdle. I kicked the hurdle, but then I go on to another one. Because I bypassed it. I don't just stop in there. I don't just lie on the ground waiting for people to pick me up. I get up, put on my knapsack, and go on again. I'm looking for tomorrow. I want to continue. I'm 37 years old now. I'm getting myself nowhere. You're only 37. There's still a lot to do. I'm 56. I'm almost close to retired. My life is half, 50%. I'm not getting anywhere. Who said so? The future is always there. More hurdles to go through. Maybe you haven't gone through too many hurdles. You got stuck in there. Now you want to go to overcome those hurdles. Don't give up. Always increase the momentum. Always get the right balance and carry on.